My name is Luna, and this is my alter intro.
Hi, my name is Astrofel. I have dissociative identity disorder. Welcome to our system, the Cosmic Collective.
Hello, my name is Catherine, and I am an alter in the Constellation system.
Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm an alter in a DID system.
Hey y'all, welcome back. Today, we're unpacking TikTok's dissociative identity disorder subculture. This community took TikTok by storm during the 2020 lockdowns, with DID-related content receiving billions of views. While DID itself is a real mental illness, the subculture that formed around it, their language, presentation, and identity politics, draw more from stereotyped and stigmatized portrayals in popular media than from clinical reality. This video serves as a reference point for future content. So if there's something you don't hear covered today, don't worry, I didn't forget it. Before getting into the online trend, I want to talk about genuine DID, but I want to do so in a way that doesn't sound like a how-to guide that could help someone imitate it. So, I'm sure most of y'all already know this, but DID was previously known as multiple personality disorder. When the 4th edition of the DSM was published in the 90s, the disorder was renamed Dissociative Identity Disorder. This change was made to better reflect the reality of the condition, because DID isn't about multiple, fully formed personalities. It's about dissociated self-states that are subtle and function as a survival mechanism. So what are some signs of fake or fictitious DID? Well, things like complete blackout amnesia between self-states.
Where am I? What year is it? Why can't I remember my name or where I came from? Why can't I recognize this body?
Or an unusually high and constant awareness of all self-states.
Hi, I'm James. I am the primary protector and the co-host of the Cryptid System.
Hey guys, I am Destin, and I am the host of the Cryptid System.
Hi guys, my name is Andrea, and I am a co-host and social protector.
Hi, I'm Drew. I am trauma holder and protector in the system.
Hi, I'm Levi. I'm a protector and a trauma holder.
Combined with overt, theatrical switching.
I'm switching. I'm switching. Ooh. Okay, motherfucker. I'm switching. Oh no, it's me, Clover.
Are atypical for genuine DID and genuine OSDD. All evidence for the development of DID points to one core factor: severe and repeated trauma in early childhood, usually before age 6, when a cohesive sense of self has not yet fully formed. The brain unconsciously fragments experience and identity so the child can cope. DID isn't about a single personality splitting. It's about a person who, because of chronic early trauma, was prevented from organically integrating into a whole self. It's not some fun, dramatic performance. It's covert, rooted in severe childhood trauma and clinically complex. The online DID subculture didn't materialize overnight on TikTok. Its earliest roots can be traced back to the 1995 website astriusweb.net. As the internet grew, DID-adjacent communities spread across platforms like DeviantArt, LiveJournal, and Tumblr. Over time, they created a vocabulary that drifted far beyond clinical usage. In late 2020, the website Pluralpedia, an independently run, Wikipedia-style subculture site, was developed to document the history of these community terms. Pluralpedia defines the term system as, quote, the collection of people and entities, often called headmates, that share a single physical plural body. Its first documented use can be traced back to the December 1990 edition of the DID newsletter, Many Voices. The term headmate is defined as, quote, a singular person or entity in a plural system or collective. Its first use within the DID subculture can be traced back to a 2005 post in the LiveJournal community, plural_living. The subculture's use of the term plurality, defined as, quote, the state of having multiple headmates collectively sharing a single body, can be traced back to as early as 2001. As you can see, this subculture has existed since even before the popularization of the internet. They already had their own lore, labels, and templates for narrating their identity, but the subculture remained relatively small and unheard of for decades, at least outside of their niche communities on Tumblr and LiveJournal. That is until
This is breaking news.
Several breaking developments tonight in the coronavirus outbreak.
Now, for 55 million American children, school is closed.
We begin with breaking news tonight, what New York's governor is calling a matter of life and death. Tonight, the confirmed global death toll from COVID just reached 1 million.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio closing all New York City public schools.
The COVID-19 lockdown of 2020 left teens and young adults isolated at home, spending their days scrolling through TikTok. During this time, the DID subculture went from an obscure, almost forgotten group to something even your local news picked up.
This morning, experts warning about what they call a troubling trend on TikTok that could leave some teens believing they have a serious mental disorder.
Now to the rise in teens on TikTok who are self-diagnosing themselves with rare mental health disorders that they probably don't have.
The majority of students are turning to TikTok to self-diagnose their mental health conditions, which is misleading young people and causing even more issues.
Posts with the hashtag Dissociative identity disorder and borderline personality disorder viewed hundreds of millions of times.
This sudden and rapid growth caused a hierarchy to quickly develop within the subculture's newest generation of members. The leaders are often adults who present themselves as educators or advocates for mental health awareness.
Blue dress. I don't even know if the blue dress is in there. Sam, what we've I'm good. What we've labeled that is polyamorous, emotionally physically monogamous.
What up? My name is Jonas. I'm a part of a DID system, and today we're going to try to do another switch log. It's almost 9, and I've been here since I've been up. Hi guys, it's Cameron. It's 9:14, and I'm driving to work. Hi guys, it's Iris. It's 10 o'clock. I just got to work, and I switched in because Cameron was having a bad time. What up? This is Jonas. It's 12:12, and we're still at work. Hi guys, it's Iris. It's 5:10, and I am here because Jonas ran into a pole, and I had the highest pain tolerance, so... Hey guys, it's Cameron, and it's 6:30. We're in really heavy traffic, and Iris got bored. What up? Guess who? It is 7:46, and there are a lot of people at my house, so I will be taking care of that. Hello, it's Jackson. It's 10:32, and my friend is here. What up? It's Jonas. It's like 2 minutes later. Hello, it's Jackson. I'm back. Hi, it's Cameron. Hi, it's Jada. I played back.
Their followers, on the other hand, are usually minors with small platforms who treat those leaders as reference points and gradually adopt their language and frameworks.
You're a system since childhood, before 9 years old. And you can't get a diagnosis till body's 18, so...
This leader-follower structure amplifies norms and slogans that oversimplify and romanticize DID. Combined with the isolation from lockdown and TikTok's dopamine-charged short-form videos, it fueled the subculture's rapid growth through mass social media-induced illness. With the growth of any community or subculture comes internal debates and discourse. The deepest divide in the DID subculture centers on beliefs about system origins. This mirrors a long-standing controversy among psychiatric professionals, where one side argues that DID is a genuine disorder caused by trauma, while the other side dismisses it and instead views it as something induced by therapists or spread through social contagion. Similarly, within the subculture, the exclusionists, who always identify as traumagenic systems, argue that DID is a psychiatric disorder caused exclusively by trauma.
DID and OSDD is a trauma-based disorder.
Systems form from trauma.
DID, OSDD, being a system is traumagenic in nature.
On the flip side are the inclusionists, who are often, but not always, endogenic systems. Their views slightly deviate from the iatrogenic or fantasy-based theory that some professionals use to argue against DID. But instead of outright rejecting the disorder, inclusionists argue that DID is real, and that any form of plurality can arise without trauma. They believe that multiple internal identities or personas can exist as a form of neurodiversity, and not necessarily as something disordered.
Plurality is having more than one active consciousness. Plurality is not a diagnosis or a mental illness, although there is a mental illness with one of the main features being plurality, and that is called dissociative identity disorder or otherwise specified dissociative disorder. Dissociative identity disorder does not require trauma to be diagnosed. Endogenic systems are medically recognized.
I think self-diagnosis for plurality is actually more accurate than not nowadays because doctors don't know shit about it.
And also, like, there's no scientific evidence that you absolutely have to have trauma in order to be a system. And there's a lot of historical evidence from across the world that there are many different types of systems. So there is no definitive thing saying you must have trauma to be a system. So we're just putting that out there.
Ironically, this mimics the very iatrogenic rhetoric of medical professionals who don't believe DID or any concept of quote-unquote plurality to be a legitimate phenomena. And because of this traumagenic endogenic divide, various cliques formed across the subculture based on these identity politics. Endogenic systems feel chronically invalidated by both medical professionals and their own subculture. Any criticism or disbelief, whether from psychiatrists, traumagenic systems, or outsiders, is labeled as plural phobia, which is defined as, quote, someone who seeks to remove systems and open plurality from their lives. Endogenics have this strange dichotomy where they claim to exist as non-disordered, yet try to frame plural phobia as not only its own form of systemic oppression, but also as a form of oppression under ableism, even though they don't view their so-called plurality as a disability or disorder. Pluralpedia's page on ableism provides examples of so-called discrimination in the subculture, framing things like being told they aren't real or that they're faking as a form of oppression. Endogenics often frame medical professionals as oppressive, because all reliable scientific evidence to date invalidates the existence of non-disordered plurality. As a result, this group tends to harbor anti-medical and anti-scientific views.
What if you have no way of getting medically recognized as a system? Unfortunately, this is the case for most systems. The mental health system is garbage, and they do not know enough about systems. There is very little education. They are taught to gaslight you on this. They are taught in school that DID is not something to be taken seriously. Dissociative identity disorder doesn't exist. OSDD may exist, or this or that or the next thing. Basically, they're just really undereducated and misinformed, and it's basically impossible to get medically recognized. It's going to be a rough fucking journey because there is going to be no professional help. There's going to be very minimal professional help, if any. But that's just kind of the way it is for systems right now in the world, unfortunately. We are undiagnosed. Most of the systems that we know are undiagnosed. I'd say 9 out of 10 systems, they're not diagnosed, and they're never going to get a diagnosis. The theory of structural dissociation is the equivalent of autism speaks for plurals. Not only is how the theory was formed completely flawed and unbased in fact, it's just overall so harmful. It encourages therapists to refuse to talk to what they call dissociative parts of the personality. Overall, it's a shit theory, it's a shit treatment option, and it's extremely dehumanizing and harmful to plurals. It is disgusting, and the sooner it is thrown out altogether, the better. You're also quoting a very ableist and harmful theory. The theory that we all start out as multiple pieces and form into one is part of the theory of structural dissociation, which comes from a book written in 2007 called The Haunted Self. Not only is it outdated, that book was never peer-reviewed. This theory was never tested or researched. It paints plurals as broken people, and the only cure for that brokenness is suppression and integration, regardless of the cost to the individual or system's mental health. The theory you are quoting says that headmates aren't people. They are just broken pieces that need to be shoved back into a hole so we can be normal again. This theory has already done so much harm, and it continues to do more harm as more and more systems believe that it is fact. It's unbased in fact. It's nonsense written by a man who was thrown out of his practice for abusing his patients.
Despite their science denialist rhetoric and poor scientific literacy, endogenics love to cosplay scientists on top of DID.
Today, we are going to be showing you evidence and facts, all published by the American Psychiatric Association, who are the people who make the DSM-5. Here are the diagnostic criteria for dissociative identity disorder. You'll notice that none of them state that trauma is necessary. Here are the diagnostic features of dissociative identity disorder. You'll notice again that it doesn't mention trauma as a requirement. This is because dissociative identity disorder is not a trauma disorder. It is a dissociative disorder, and it falls under the dissociative disorder category, which, as you can see here, are two separate categories. Some people say that the reason that it is not part of the diagnostic criteria is because no diagnostic criteria requires trauma, because requiring trauma would be unethical, because they would be torturing children somehow. One, that's not how research works, and two, here's the diagnostic criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. It requires trauma. Here's the diagnostic criteria for acute stress disorder. It also requires trauma. This is because these disorders are trauma disorders. So while dissociative identity disorder is heavily related to trauma, you can be diagnosed without trauma. It's not part of the diagnostic criteria. Our next source was also published by the American Psychiatric Association. It has an entire chapter on plurality and talks multiple times about how plurality is not confined to people who have trauma and not confined to the diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder or other disorders. Here is the summary of that chapter. Let me read you off a few of the key points. Plurality is not the same as dissociative identity disorder, but makes up one part of it. Many people are quite happy with the alters present inside of them. Plurality is not necessarily caused by trauma, although trauma can be a part of the overall picture. In conclusion, everything we said at the beginning of the video is factually correct. Denying the existence of endogenic systems is not only bigoted, it is factually incorrect. Thank you.
So I keep showing clips of this one TikToker because he's one of the leaders in the endogenic community. He likes to see himself as their resident researcher, educator, and advocate. He's also the only one willing to attach his face to these unhinged beliefs. I've already done one video showcasing his horrific research skills, which I'll link below if y'all are interested. When I build up more of an audience, I plan on covering him and his videos more in depth, because this dude spreads more misinformation than RFK Jr.
Sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are. You're putting all Americans' health at risk, and you should resign.
Everybody is corrupt, but you? Is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And I think the issue now... I don't even know what you're talking about.
Anyway, this feeling of invalidation has not only led to science denialism, but has also led many to show their deeply ingrained victim complex.
You can't be a system without trauma. You can't be a person without trauma. There is trauma in your DNA that you were born with. Stop gatekeeping.
Oh, you are just the worst type of person.
This internalized victim complex has even led some in the subculture to reach out to their local government officials to discuss the quote-unquote discrimination that they face.
Guys. Okay, so this is amazing news. So, I was walking downtown and I walked by the courthouse to go home and there was this, Democratic rally going on. So I was like, oh, I want to, and I just sat there listening to them. And then guess who was there? Connor Lamb, the senator of my state. I think he's senator, I don't know, but some important government dude. So I told him how I'm a system and systems have basically zero discriminatory protection laws, and they're harassed online all the time. And he was actually convinced. He was actually going to look more into it. So I'm going to call him later today and help him with the research.
This TikTok account has since been deleted, and there was never any follow-up, so I don't think she did a very good job convincing him. Also, Connor Lamb was not the senator of her state. He was running for senator, hence the rally. But this isn't the first time the subculture has attempted a political stunt. In 2022, the Plural Bill of Rights was released by a rare breed of system, a traumagenic inclusionist diagnosed with DID, the Stronghold System. They currently run an inclusionist European nonprofit, the Plural Association. Their Bill of Rights isn't an actual legal proposal, it's more so like a community manifesto. It asserts their right to self-identify as plural, trust their headmates, and define their own internal experiences. Most of the things listed are rights that this subculture already has. The right to self-expression and belief. The right that they don't have and can't have is the right to force others, clinicians, or anyone else to treat community-invented categories as medical fact or valid identity. The overall pattern in inclusionist spaces is an identity-first redefinition of plurality that exists as a lifestyle outside of clinical models. They romanticize what they believe DID to be, based on glamorized media representations. Inclusionists read more like role-play and community storytelling, opposed to the malingering and imitation of DID as a disorder, like we are about to see with traumagenic systems. Traumagenic systems often look down on endogenics because of the way trauma functions as validation in the subculture. If DID is trauma-anchored, and traumagenics identify as trauma-anchored, this serves as validation that they're the real systems in the subculture. But declaring this victory didn't end the competition. It formed a new hierarchy around the exclusionists' idea of system validity. At the top of this hierarchy are those who claim a professional diagnosis.
Hi, my name is Ellery. I'm an alter in a professionally diagnosed DID system.
Hello, my name is Easton. I am the host of a diagnosed DID system.
Hi, my name is Natasha. I am professionally diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder.
In reality, if these diagnoses even are legit, they come from therapists who aren't licensed to diagnose, from telehealth companies like BetterHealth, or from therapists who do not specialize in dissociative disorders. There have also been instances of creators providing forged medical documentation to their followers. These documents usually have a diagnosis listed, but it takes minimal editing skills to manipulate or forge them. Most of the time, though, putting professionally diagnosed in their TikTok bio is enough. In the middle are those who claim to be, quote, medically recognized but undiagnosed.
Being medically recognized is where a member or multiple members of your team recognize your symptoms and affirm that they are what you think they are. So like a therapist telling you that they believe you that you have DID and that they understand that that is the problem that's going on with your brain.
Posting this draft to announce that we've been medically recognized. While we're still working towards a full diagnosis, our therapist has recognized us as a system. This is a huge step for us.
This phrase isn't actually used by professionals. It's a term the subculture came up with. A clinician can suspect a condition and refer someone for assessment, but suspicion is not recognition, nor is it confirmation. Plus, people in this group tend to believe that no outright denial or fake claiming from their therapist is automatic validation. Self-diagnosed systems are at the bottom of the traumagenic hierarchy. This group has increasingly rebranded as undiagnosed because of the backlash surrounding self-diagnosis. They're often minors with smaller audiences and receive less of a voice in community discourse.
The reason we are self-diagnosed, we have been aware of our system for years. We can't afford travel to see a doctor that can diagnose us, so we make do with what we can do. Not all self-diagnosing is bad.
Are you going to be paying for the entire year of the entire year that it would take for me to get diagnosed? And then are you also going to be paying for the travel fee?
The Oppression Olympics hierarchy dominates in all other aspects, like disability comorbidity and trauma severity, but they draw the line at diagnostic status. Despite self-diagnosed individuals framing a diagnosis as either inaccessible or a flat-out privilege, adversity does not outweigh credibility. In traumagenic spaces, claiming professional validation overrides the usual hierarchy of suffering we see, putting self-diagnosed individuals at the bottom. But this hierarchy reemerges in each of these respective groups, where the severity of claimed disability and trauma is a mark of status. You'll frequently see lists that include autism, ADHD, complex PTSD, BPD, dissociative seizures, and Tourette's, as well as a cluster of chronic illness labels such as POTS, hypermobility syndromes, IBS, endometriosis, and fibromyalgia.
Disability check. Your name, your age, your disability, the age you became disabled, accommodations to make life easier, an insecurity you have because of your disability, your occupation.
This pattern can also be seen among endogenics, but it doesn't really help their position in the subculture's oppression hierarchy. It can more so be attributed to the overall oppression Olympics that runs rampant on social media.
This is what a meltdown looks like for us. This part is sped up as it takes a while. We have a giant ball of yarn in our lap to dig our fingers into. This keeps us from clawing at our skin or punching ourselves. The pillow keeps us from hitting our head on the wall. Our service dog is just out of frame, laying on our feet and waiting for his cue. He knows not to try to help at this stage, because we could accidentally hit him. Normal speed as we start dissociating really hard. This quickly turns into a dissociative seizure. These often accompany our meltdowns as our brain shuts itself down, trying to keep us safe from the intense stress and emotion. We slowly start coming out of it now. We call our sweet baby to cuddle. He is so good. At this stage, everything just feels fuzzy. We are slowly gaining the ability to feel things again, and the breakdown continues. We feel more in control now and just try to let it out. During this, we have caregivers providing support and headspace, reminding us we are safe and it's okay to feel this. Puppy is also helping a lot. They work together to keep the frontal and body regulated. We disassociate a lot as we come out of it, but we are safe and feel lighter, like a massive weight has been pulled off our chest.
Now, the issue here isn't about the diagnoses on their own. It's about the way the subculture incentivizes oppressed identities. In an economy where attention is currency, more severe self-presentations perform better. That incentive fosters embellishment, imitation, and fabrication, where unprescribed medical devices from Amazon become props and accessories for content.
I got a surprise. Finally got a wheelchair for when we go to con.
Hey guys, so we need a wheelchair and
There you go. I got it!
For viewers, it becomes difficult to separate truth from performance, especially when documentation is selectively shown or unverifiable. For creators, their false victim narrative stigmatizes the actual groups of people with disabilities that they so desperately wish to be part of. In addition to illness appropriation, false trauma narratives add to the social hierarchy where oppression prevails. This was not initially the case in 2020, when the subculture was still growing. Back then, we usually just saw people framing their teenage angst as trauma.
Hey everyone! We're actually just a traumagenic system, since stress is a form of trauma. We still allow endos to interact.
Birth trauma is real. Okay? We were born extremely physically disabled and kept in a little ventilator when we were born. You can have trauma at birth.
Mom was the main aggressor in so many things. They're the reason we're a system. Do not say that I'm lying when I say that I've been through shit that you will never experience, because you're the second child and you are not the experiment. You got your first C in middle school. We got ours, and we got our phone taken away for 6 months. You got yelled at and being told, hey, you need to fix this. Your experiences with mom and dad are nothing compared to ours.
It wasn't until 2021 when Traumagenics began openly claiming experiences of extremely severe abuse. Past stories of ritual abuse, mind control, and organized abuse, often shortened to RAMCOA, began to circulate within the subculture.
So, RAMCOA stands for Ritual Abuse, Mind Control, and Organized Abuse. Simply put, extreme abuse under the guise of religion. Someone who has faced this kind of repeated ritualistic abuse have been subjected to it since childhood.
US begging to not remember more trauma comes to the realization we've been through RAMCOA.
Data from Google Trends shows us that RAMCOA's search interest reached its peak in 2023. These narratives describe survival of secretive cults and multi-generational conspiracies.
There are organizations built within actual organizations, hidden away, blah, 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 that do this constantly, every day, to thousands of children. And it sounds like conspiracy theories, and that's because they want it to sound like conspiracy theories. The whole satanic panic thing was just the surface level of all of this. If you actually dug down and talked to the victims, a lot of them were systems made that way through torture, abuse, rituals, scripts, and just a lot of people with the same horrendous goal. Sorry you had to find out this way.
For multiple personality disorders specifically, they will create and condition specific personalities to fulfill different roles. For example, they will usually create a submissive personality, either sexually or in the form of a personality that basically manifests itself as a child to make the person more easily manipulated.
In short-form videos, these stories are chilling. But in practice, most claims presented on TikTok are either unsubstantiated, impossible to verify, dramatically exaggerated, or represent relatively ordinary adverse experiences reframed into a RAMCOA template, where a strict religious upbringing is recast as cult trauma, controlling parenting is reframed as mind control, and so on.
Common beliefs taught to children in satanic ritual abuse are things along the lines of someone can always see what you're doing or always knows what you're doing. Santa can be shame-based programming. Santa is a way for parents to control and shame their children into doing things.
A common theme among this group is to claim that their DID system was specifically programmed by their supposed handlers.
Yeah, the terms are similar, because some awful, awful people in this world discovered that if you torture children in just the right way, you can program them like a computer.
In a program system, parts are specifically created and given designations and roles as part of their abuse and programming.
Oh, these altars aren't homemade. They were made by our abusers. In that place, they're programmed.
This has led to creators claiming to be diagnosed with complex, highly complex, and polyfragmented DID.
Hi, today I want to talk about some terms that are often mixed up with each other. Polyfragmented DID and CDID are two words for the same thing. CDID stands for complex DID. Many people define polyfragmented DID as DID with a high alter count, but there's a bit more to it than that. You can have a high alter count without being polyfrag. The main aspects of polyfragmented DID are a lower tolerance for splitting and a high number of fragments. Fragments are underdeveloped alters, typically with a specific purpose and not much depth outside of said purpose. Polyfragmented systems are often called complex DID systems, because their internal structure is complex. Highly complex DID, sometimes called high control, DID is DID formed through TBMC, trauma-based mind, control or TO-roerture-based mind, control, also known as programming. In programming, the victim is put into a suggestible state through TO-gerture, or hypnosis, and then manipulated into thinking, feeling, or being a certain way. A common program is to make the system more prone to splitting. This is so the handler 4bus3R has more alters to program. Because of programming, HCD systems have a complex internal structure, which is why they're called highly complex. So all HCDID systems are polyfragmented/complex, but not all polyfragmented or complex systems were programmed. Many HCDID systems also simply call themselves seeded systems for privacy or safety reasons, which I think is where the confusion comes from.
These are not actual diagnoses that exist. They were mentioned in very early DID research as possible presentations, but haven't been referenced in the scientific community for decades, nor did they ever make their way into independent diagnostic recognition. The reason ROMCOA proliferates in this context is straightforward. It sits atop the existing oppression hierarchy as a prestige narrative. When diagnosis has already been leveraged for status and comorbidity lists have been maxed out, ROMCOA functions as the next escalation, extraordinary harm that, by definition, is difficult for outsiders to disprove. Now, am I saying these kinds of experiences don't exist? Absolutely not. Unlike some others who call this stuff out, I do think some of these experiences are possible, even if they sound like conspiracies. But does that mean that I believe the TikTokers who are publicly claiming these experiences? No, not personally. I believe a lot of their rhetoric we see comes from stories and books about other people's lived experiences that these creators have twisted around to fit their online identity. I personally know a few people who have bent their experiences to fit the ROMCOA narrative. I don't want to get into details, but let's just say what some on TikTok call organized abuse was, in my case, the place the court system decided was safest for me as a kid. So, by TikTok standards, I'd be considered a ROMCOA survivor. I'm not, but, you know, TikTok. So, what's the harm in all this? It's common for the subculture as a whole to claim that their content and rhetoric doesn't hurt anyone, despite the criticism they've received from professionals.
We have been, in our own consultation service at McLean, we've been inundated with referrals and requests from schools, parents, and our own adolescent treatment and testing services to assess for symptoms and offer guidance about adolescents and young adults identifying as having what they refer to as DID. Social media and online platforms, including TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and so on, have ballooned with DID-related content. Across these platforms, users with or claiming to have DID are making extremely popular content and attracting billions of views. They're creating distinct fandoms, communities, and subcultures. And the online content that they create usually arouses curiosity, surprise, humor, and disbelief. DID-related content specifically has been viewed billions of times across platforms. While some individuals are likely aware that they are exaggerating or fabricating some or all of the symptoms of DID, some online users may also present with self-reported dissociative symptoms and actually believe that they have genuine DID. And Boone and Drazier use the term imitated DID to describe these individuals. Individuals with imitated DID may benefit from psychological and social gain in some way, and therefore social media platforms are ideal places for imitated DID to thrive. Social gain can include receiving special attention or having people be infatuated with you. So again, thinking about social media and likes, that's very much at play. The experience of social gain may help explain why social media representations of DID, where again the goal is often obtaining as many followers as possible or likes, plays out. And there's a social cachet for getting more attention. Another example of what might be imitated DID includes plurality or multiplicity and so-called endogenic systems.
In my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, this subculture has done real damage in many different ways. They create deeply stigmatizing content, spread misinformation, confuse teens into believing that they're mentally ill and traumatized, romanticize trauma and systemic oppression, and has a major problem with PDF files in the subculture that definitely needs its own video. But there's one piece of the subculture's harm that I really want to focus on.
Malingering is the intentional reporting of symptoms for some external gain, such as money. On this slide, we see the online merchandise website for the A system. And they also have a Cameo account. For those of you not familiar with Cameo, it's where you can book a personalized video, shout out for your birthday or special event from someone famous or well-known. We also see another example of commodification of DID in this video, where the user has created bunny hats that she's often seen wearing, or they're often seen wearing online, created for followers to purchase on a newly created merchandise site.
The alleged scammers. Dissociative DID is probably the most well-known grifter tied to this subculture, but she's far from the only one making a profit. Beyond the money she makes from content, she also accepts donations through her website, and at one point even ran a store on there. That store has since been taken down, but her merch is still available on platforms like Creator Spring, Teespring Marketplace, and Redbubble. One of her shirts on Redbubble sells for about $24 and has racked up over 1,500 reviews. The Stronghold System, who I mentioned released the Plural Bill of Rights and founded the organization Power to the Plurals, also had merch available at one point, both on her personal store and through her organization. Her personal Redbubble store seems to be deleted, and when I tried visiting her organization's shop, Google flagged it as insecure. I went ahead and took the L for y'all, and it says the site's hosting service was suspended. TikTokers have also been able to bring in a profit on the platform. The A system offers a subscription for $5.99 a month, and their partner also offers a subscription at the same price. But they don't need 1 million followers to start making money. The Cosmic Collective has just under 100,000 followers and offers a $4 monthly subscription. The Toybox system has just over 40,000 followers and offers a $3 subscription. The Hive system has half as many followers but can still offer the same $3 monthly subscription. And it's not just subscriptions that bring them in money on TikTok. They also make commission promoting random products from the app's showcase store.
TikTok has sent me a free thing, so I am obligated to make a video about it.
If not directly through TikTok, most creators have their Cash Apps, Venmos, and PayPals linked in their bio, along with Patreons, Linktrees, and Amazon wishlists. The Pillowfort system brings in over $500 monthly from Patreon alone. These folks monetize from their supposed DID in a variety of ways, with some directly asking their followers to send cash.
Hi, it's Zephyr, and I hate making videos like this, but we need some help. So if you have a couple dollars to spare to help us replenish our groceries and our gas whenever the lights finally come back on, that would be so appreciated. I'll put details in the caption.
Hey, we're the Rat Palace Collective, and we were wondering if we opened up commissions for like altar portraits. Would you guys be interested in that?
Honestly, I need money. Yep.
Or some other form of gift.
Hey, my name's Harlow. If you didn't know, I'm an alter in a DID system, and we have a lot of packages. You guys are spoiling us so much.
Hey guys, it's Sunny. I haven't really done any package openings for a while, so I'm gonna do that because they've kind of been collecting up in my house and I haven't opened any of them.
It's addressed to Kay and the cryptic system. Kay isn't out, but I'm sure that she won't mind if I open the actual box. Oh, it's so cute. Like, look at this. I love this. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Oh, I came out. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I don't know. I want to know what it is. But there's so much wrapping paper. There's so much wrapping paper. It's a kitty cat. It's a kitty cat. It's a squishmallow kitty cat. It's a squishmallow kitty cat. It's the one I wanted. It's the one I wanted.
The Endogenics even made a headmate economy on Tumblr and started selling alters to one another. This one person here charges $40 to make an alter of a fictional character, and a weird amount of these are highly sexualized, which is yuck. Profiting in such ways generally points to malingering, and every dollar that goes to these grifters is money and attention handed to someone actively causing harm to people with DID. It's exploitation dressed up as advocacy. And while not everyone in the subculture makes money, those who don't are still enabling the ones who do, handing them a platform and keeping the cycle going. Alrighty, y'all. This has been my basic overview of the online DID community. I've been observing this subculture for about 5 years now, from its sudden massive growth to its constant rise and fall of community leaders. I want to be clear. I view the minors in this community as more victims of social contagion and misinformation than the real perpetrators of it. With that said, please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget that this video serves as a foundation for future content. So let me know if there's a specific topic about the online DID community that you'd like me to dive into next. I know the video quality isn't perfect right now, and I really appreciate y'all sticking with me through it. I'm limited to making videos on my phone for now, which makes the process take a lot longer. I also work a lot, so I don't get as much time as I'd like to put into these videos. But debunking misinformation is really important to me, and this feels like the best way to go about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.